Elio guys, and welcome back. And in today's video we're taking a look at the newest exotic Carbuncle. It is finally time to go ahead and review this astromon, so make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. And let's go ahead and get right into it here. So I do have the fire version pulled up, and let's quickly look at the design of Carbuncle. I mean, it's pretty, I wouldn't say generic, but it's pretty normal. Nothing super duper crazy, but we do have the fire version pulled up, who is a bounce type, and it is an at 3 of course, so them stats are going to be, But anyways, Fire Carbuncle has 28k HP, 2k attack, and then 2k defense as well. I was like, why is that the same even though it's balanced? I mean, it's fair enough. HP is a little bit higher than what I would have anticipated, but it is what it is. Let's take a look at the skills though. So it does have a Grace of Life variant leader skill, which unfortunately isn't that useful. I mean, it's nice to have more HP in certain scenarios. I mean, sometimes I do that in PvP with my Dark Cupid, but that's on my secondary account. But outside of that, I don't really use it too much. It's not the worst leader skill, but you probably won't be using that forever, especially if you just began the game. But for the 3-star skill, it has a 70% chance to inflict stun on one enemy for 2 turns. That's pretty fair, especially as a nat 3. And then the 5-star skill is a morale boost for the entire squad, and it seems like this mon actually heals. Very interesting. And if I recall, Dark Kira, shall I correct myself, Dark Kira has the 5-star morale boost on everyone if I recall correctly. Dark Kira unfortunately is just a gag me with a machete astromon. That is just not a very good move because there's just other moves that you could have on your entire squad. I would much rather puncture something that was like instantaneous, but this lasts for 3 turns and yeah, it's just not that good. It sounds good on paper, but in reality you don't want that. But if you're just beginning the game, maybe you do. Anyways, it looks like stun does receive a 15% damage boost, and it goes up to a whopping 90% for 2 turns. Wow. That's impressive. And then, of course, the 5-star version of Morale Boost receives a 30% recovery up increase as well. Not super important. I mean, the stun is cool, but we have a variety of different astromon that can give you stuns, and is arguably cheaper and easier to get. Someone like Fire Arthur even. He comes with stun. That's not really a big problem here, so this one's pretty much for the guide. And then moving along here, we do have the water version of Carbuncle, who's a tank type coming in with 35k HP, 1.7k attack, and then 1.4k defense. That defense stat is a huge yikers, dude. Like, the HP is fine, and honestly, just switch the attack with the defense. We don't need this astromon to do damage. It freaking heals, but wow. That defense, wow, just anyways, let's go over here and take a look at the skills. So for the 3-star skill, 70% chance to apply weaken to the enemy for 2 turns, and weakened foes have reduced attack and defense, and that's followed up by the 5-star skill, which is to attack up for 2 turns. This already sounds like an astromon that we all know and love by the name of Water Kira. Even though Water Kira has exposed weakness up there, similar setup here. Obviously, exposed weakness isn't weakened, but similar setup. Kind of like I guess you could say like a fusion in between Water Bast and Water Kira, which by all means isn't bad whatsoever. It's just unfortunate the stats are like dirt nasty low. So honestly, if you can build Kira, especially with our access to the little mini gleams, then by all means build Water Kiras as soon as you can. If you end up pulling some Water Bass, that's also a great astromon. Not super big deal, but I could definitely see this being like an entry level, just basic Titans mon, especially if you're just beginning the game now, because this will honestly just drop off super quick. That defense stat, no matter how many gems you put on that, you can't change what's already bad. Unfortunately, that's how it is, but yeah. But let's take a look at the skill books though. So Weaken does receive a 20% damage boost and goes up to 80% for 2 turns, if I'm recalling it correctly. Attack Up does receive a 25% damage boost and goes up to 3 turns. That's, once again, books are decent, but the stats are just like, gag me with a machete, man. I understand it's in that 3, but it's also exotic, so I don't know. I feel like in my mind, I would love for an exotic, even if it's only 1 or 2 of the typings, to like exist throughout the game in its entirety here. But this is more so of just like a seasonal, hey, here you go, here's this, here you go, here's this, here you go, here's this. There's no real longevity with what's being shown here, but definitely Titansmon. You can also bring it in the Apophis, of course. Colossus if you need it, and that's pretty much where I predominantly use Weaken at if I ever need it. And then following in after that, we do have the wood version of Carbuncle, who is a recovery type, coming in with 27k HP, 1.6k attack, 1.6k defense. He has more defense than the tank type, and 2.6k recovery. I mean, the recovery stat's okay. It is a nat 3, nothing super amazing, but overall the stats are fine. But let's take a look at the skills here. So, 3-star skill, it has a self morale boost, 100% chance to restore SP when attacking by 30%, of course. And then for the 5-star skill, it is going to be Zeal. This honestly sounds like the wood version of Water Siren, which if you just began the game, Water Siren may be helpful for you, but after that, unless, you know, you're a masochist, you're probably going to drop her off because you don't really need healers after a certain point in the game. And if you do need healers, they're actual useful healers that you use in Titans and the Apophis dungeon, of course. So yeah, once again, just another trophy mon. It is RGB though, which makes perfect sense. But yeah, here's this lovely astromon. It can get its SP up and heal the squad, but unfortunately its stats once again kind of just punches it straight in the stomach, man. Like, there's definitely some potential here. It's just, they're like, you know what? Nah, fam. Absolutely not. But let's take a look at the skill books too. So, morale boost on the 3-star skill receives a 20% damage boost and goes up to 40% if I can read correctly, which I can only do part of the time. Vigor also receives a 35% recovery up boost as well, so that makes it more potent. But, you know, if you just began the game, use this. If not, I'm just gonna like try and get these bad boys up to their final forms and probably release them because they won't be changed. And then following in after that, we do have a Nat 4 version of Carbuncle, which is a light one, who is a defender type, coming in with 26k HP, 2.4k attack, and then 3.2k defense. Okay. Nothing super crazy. HP is a little bit low, but it is a defender. It's supposed to have plenty of defense, which is what it has. It's just unfortunate with the whole Carbuncles and how they want to like gimp the stats as much as possible here. But anyways, for the 3-star skill, it has Battle Rush, restores 10% of allies HP and SP. So this is for the entire squad and not for itself. I think, what's his name? Shadow has that as well, and maybe 1 or 2 other astromon have Battle Rush. I'm not a super big fan of Battle Rush. I would take morale boost any day of the week, but I've said that before. And then for the 5-star skill, there's also Resilience. Supplies a Resilience buff to enemies for 3 turns. And this essentially acts like SP Siphon temporarily, which is cool, but you have to get enough SP to do Resilience. You have to have it stick. And then you also have to have your astromon on your team be able to act and steal the SP away from the enemies. You see the problem here? There's a whole bunch of steps to get this working as it should for it to be useful. Not saying that it can't be useful, versus having a dedicated mon, you know, like a dedicated SP Siphoner, basically kind of control each astromon, you know, every single turn. If you have a spicy suggestion for the lovely light version of Carbuncle, feel free to leave that in the comments below. But overall, just a bit lackluster. Like, I know this astromon heals, but you couldn't have done something different. But anyways, let's take a look at the skill books here. So, Battle Rush for the entire squad receives a whopping, what is that, 25% damage increase? And then Resilience also receives a 25% recovery up boost as well. So, very underwhelming. I mean, okay design, but and okay skills. It's just, even if I try and say, oh, these skills are useful, the stats are just not there, man. It doesn't matter how good your skills are. If you have a mon like Dark Endure, for example, with double Courageous Strike and it's a Dark Mon, but it has the stats of freaking Dark Panolo, congratulations. It's trash. And then hopefully last but not least, we do have the dark version of Carbuncle as well, who is a tank type, coming in with nearly 27k HP, 1.9k attack, and then 1.9k defense. This is a Nat 4? What? There's no way. Its stats have to be wrong. Like, legit, its stats have to be wrong. Okay, so it's a tank type, alright? Why is its HP pool that of like an attacker? That is, something's wrong. Maybe it's supposed to be 36,774, but 26,000? Holy crap, and its recovery is high as hell. I think this one is broken. I could be wrong here, but that stat distribution is probably the worst I've ever seen for a tank type. Like, legit the worst I've ever seen. Wow. But let's take a look at the skills. So for the 3-star skill, there's SP Siphon, which I stated before with the light version of this, is great for crowd control. And then for the 5-star skill, it has an HP based shield, but with 26k HP, which I'm pretty sure a defender or even a freaking attacker, my mind doesn't compute with that. Like, that shield literally doesn't even exist. You would sneeze and that shield would go away. This quite possibly has to be one of the worst shields in the game. I don't know of any Nat 1s or Nat 2s right off the dome that have a HP based shield, but my gosh, is that gag me with a machete, dude. That is just absolutely disrespectful. So I'm going to assume, which, you know, you shouldn't assume because that makes an ass out of you and me, but I'm going to assume here that this HP is wrong. Just going to assume. Could be wrong, but if it's not, wow, dude. They totally just made Carbuncle trash. Absolute trash. Anyways, let's take a look at the skill books here. So SP Siphon does receive a 25% damage boost and it goes up to 30%. That's fair. And then the HP based shield also receives a 25% recovery up boost, making that a little bit more potent. That is bad news bears, dude. That is absolutely horrible. They totally just, I wouldn't say butchered the Carbuncles, but they totally just right out the gate just get this astromon. It's like here, Carbuncle, come out here to the world. You know what, we want to make sure that the world doesn't want you because you're just bad. But that is Carbuncle. I was excited. The skills in general seem to be pretty decent, like especially on paper here, but the stats don't add up. The stats make the mons so lackluster that even if I recommend you using them outside of you being a beginner to the game here, you're basically hurting yourself. FYI here. But to wrap things up, the ones that I would definitely go for, of course, is Light and Dark. Will they change their stats / skills in the future? I don't know, probably not here, but that's, you know, here hoping out, or for whatever content that we need that could be useful. Because in theory, this could be useful in PvP, but the stats just say otherwise. So definitely keep Light and Dark. Outside of the RGB though, I would probably say the water one has the most staying power just because of weaken and attack up. That's a real cheap and easy way to get your quote-unquote Kiras / Bast hybrids going on for a little bit. I think, is Okeanos weaken and attack up? Which she's a Nat 5 too. So if you pull any of those, maybe it's Dispose weakness. I don't know. If you pull any of those though, obviously you can kind of replace that as time goes on, but if you're just beginning the game and you're trying to get in the Titans in the Apophis dungeon, of course, you do have access to that. Can also be used in Colossus. The fire one, the stun is interesting, but we just have easier and more potent choices with not so bad stats to go with it. Wood one, I said it before, is like the wood version of Water Siren. Useful at the beginning, but once you realize that you don't need healers because your astromon is strong enough, well, goodbye. But that is Carbuncle. Feel free to leave in the comments below about what you guys think about Carbuncle. I do hope that some type of change comes in the future here. I have no control over that, but if not, well, Dark Carbuncle, man. Go ahead and just leave an F in the comments or an RIP because, wow, that is that is bad news bears.